Well. Good morning, Facebook family and friends. This is Saturday morning with Dr. Mama Rosie Thompson. I am really happy to be back online today. Let me turn this down. I got too many devices. As always, something right. Apologize again. But anyway, I'm very happy to be back online with you guys. Missed last Saturday, as you know, I was out, but I'm back, and I'm really happy to be back. Uh, every time I think that, well, I keep saying that too. Every time I think that is something that I'm done with talking about, there's something else that come up that I need to go a little bit deeper. So I'm going to try and remember not to keep saying that and just do what I'm supposed to be doing and say whatever it is that I'm supposed to say. Anyway, I thank you all so much for joining. I thank you all for watching online. For those of you who will be online with me now, for those of you who will watch this video later, or maybe even on YouTube, thank you so much for joining me as I present to you Saturday mornings with Dr. Mama Rosie Thompson. Today, we're going to continue to go. We're still talking about trauma. Every time, there's still some more stuff that we need to talk about. But the subject for right now, and I don't know how long it'll go, but I got a message from Sister Antoinette, excuse me, Sister Antoinette Martin, excuse me, Sister Antoinette Martin, and she asked me if I would talk about singleness. And that's going to be the topic. The other stuff under there will be subtopics. But when we're talking about singleness, we're not talking about unmarried couples. So I want you to know that before you tune out feeling like, okay, this is not for me. I'm not single. This is not singleness in the sense of, being married or not married. We've done a lot of talk. We've talked a lot about trauma, and I hope that if you haven't seen these videos, that you go back, take a look at them, and see if there's something in your life that this can help. Hopefully, it will. We've talked about trauma. We've talked about the triggers of trauma, the trauma triggers. We talked about how we manage traumas, and then lastly, we talked about setting boundaries. How do we, about boundaries in our lives, and I think that's really important that we have boundaries. And I think that it even leads into this topic, because without boundaries, when we're talking about being single, we need boundaries still. We definitely need boundaries. We need boundaries in relationships. We need boundaries to help us have deeper relationships with people. One of the things that I find that we don't do enough of is communicate. We don't set boundaries. We don't talk enough about this is what I want in my life. This is what I can't have in my life. This is what affects me. And people come and do things, and then we get upset because they're doing them. But then we don't have any boundaries. And we'll talk about why that happens too, maybe a little bit later. So today we're going to talk about stored trauma, fragmentation, and we're going to talk about self-wholeness. We're going to talk about stored trauma, and we're going to talk about fragmentation, and we're also going to talk about self-wholeness. When we talk about being single, when we want to be whole in whatever state a relationship that we're in, whether we're married, single, whether we got friends, whether we're by ourselves. When we talk, we want to be whole as a person. So when a person experiences severe trauma, their identity, their individuality, this includes their personality, their emotions, it all goes into a process of fragmentation. So this is when the body divides the traits or the characters and feelings and group them into smaller sections, and most of the time keep them hidden until a safe space for expression is provided. Excuse me. Again, what happens is the body divides our traits, our characters, our feelings, and it groups them into these smaller sections, and most of the time keep them hidden until a safe space for expression is provided. And remember that as this is happening, you may have that these fragments of your traits and characteristics and feelings may be divided and kept in a safe place. But remember that life continues to go on. Life does not stop because you got this stuff in your life. So when a safe space to express these things is provided, that's when they come out. I hope that you remember when I talked about one day when I was at work and I had got to the job and I thought I was in the best place in my life, but some of the childhood trauma in my life that had not been expressed, that was not a safe space for that to be expressed, was still inside of me. So day-to-day life continued to go on. But when we get to that place where we can express those, when our body finds that there's a space to express that trauma, and it express it sometime in a place where you do not want it to be expressed. Because I know that I was at work and I had this job, and it was the best job I had ever had. I was really excited about having a job, really excited about working. And when it came up in the sense of I just started crying at my desk. And I really didn't even understand or know why I was crying at first. But I was crying and I ended up in therapy. And that's why I was able to determine to find out what was causing it, where the problem came from and what I needed to do. And that it was trauma expressing itself. There was time for it because before then, as you know, I was on public aid and I was trying to protect my kids. I was trying to have a decent place to live. I was trying to do so many things with nothing until I didn't have time to let go and express and allow these things that have been fragmented in my life, that allow even the trauma that was in my life to come back to surface so that I would deal with it, know how to deal with it. When my mom died, I had gone through some things again when my mom passed away, and my mom was my everything. I talk about her in the book. She was my everything. The reason I think that she was my everything was because when I was being abused as a child, she was as much protection as she probably could be. She didn't protect me in the sense that she didn't allow those things to happen to me, but she tried to minimize the effect. That's what she did. She tried to minimize the effect. I remember when I told on my father, and he was so upset with me for telling on him, and he didn't allow me to celebrate Christmas with my brothers and sisters. So at Christmas time, I didn't get gifts. So sometimes he would bring candy home from work, and I couldn't have any candy. So one day, what my mom would do, not one day, but what my mom would do, she would make me a rag doll. And when she would make the rag doll for me, she would make the rag doll early in the, like in October, September, October. And she would hide it. She would put it away. Let me play with it, but put it away. And at Christmas time, because I didn't get gifts like my brothers and sisters, my mom would give me my rag doll. So she didn't get in trouble with my dad for buying me a gift, but I still got something for Christmas. And she was always there, like, to give me that hug and that love that I felt that I so desperately needed until she became my everything. On the day my mom died, when she died, I didn't mourn her. I didn't cry. And it wasn't like I was trying to be strong. It just wasn't there. It didn't happen. Sometimes when all of this stuff, when we're so used to holding things inside of us, when we're so used to the pent up feelings, when we're so used to the pent up pain, that when other things come up that we should be able to release it and let go and express those feelings, we're unable to. It was only, and I know a lot of times, I understand why. Well, before she died, I came into some money. And she used to always talk about this French conventional furniture. So I offered to buy her that furniture because I wanted to buy her something. And she told me no. She said, no, but when I need the money, I'll let you know and I want you to give it to me. That was fine. So I got a call that day. It said my mom had died. And one of my girlfriends, thank God for her, she was concerned about me, came over to be with me. And when I said to her, I said, well, I'm going to go make breakfast. She's like, oh, you all right? I can go. I wasn't all right, but I felt I was. I didn't have the feeling like I wasn't crying. I didn't feel it hurt. It was just kind of surreal for me. Anyway, when I got down to my mom's funeral, it's always like I said, when there's so many things to do and so many things cloud our minds, sometimes we don't have time for those expressions to surface. So when I got to the funeral, now I'm knowing and thinking about my mama said to me that she wanted me to give her the money when she needed it. When I got there, my mom didn't have any life insurance. So when I get there to the funeral, I found that some family members have already gone to the funeral home. They made payment plans for this funeral. I mean, they just did stuff. And I was upset about it because it wasn't their mom. They were family members, but it wasn't their mom. So anyway, when I went and I paid for my mom's funeral. So I didn't have time because I had to go and talk to the funeral man. I had to get all this stuff done that I felt like she would have wanted done. It wasn't to take it out, the focus away from all of us that was doing all this stuff to take care of what she told me to do. She told me to give her the money when she needed it. Now she needs it. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pay for my mama's funeral. We're not going to have a payment plan for my mama's funeral. That kind of thing. That was my translation into what she had asked me to do. So that's another thing. When life continued to go on, But these trauma and the traits and things in our life, the fragments in our life, will not surface until there's a safe place to express them. So I had got all the way back home, and I was sitting in my bedroom after my mama's funeral. And I even sang a song, and I don't sing, but I sang a song at my mom's funeral. And I never would have thought I could do that. But anyway, when I got back home and I was in my room, and I started to cry, and my daughter said, well, it's about time. And another thing, it's kind of hard when you go to a funeral to just be yourself and be real and be authentic and cry if you feel like crying, especially when you got people around you steady saying, it's okay, it's okay. You're going to be okay. I don't understand why people don't just leave you alone. Just let you feel what you want to feel, let you be what you want to be, what you need to be at that time. Just leave you alone, And when, what they do, they come over, they want to hug you, and they want to pat you, and you know what that means. I know what that means. When a baby is crying, a little baby, and we pat them, that's to quiet them. So in my mind, you're quieting me. You're not letting me alone. So I didn't feel like I could even cry until I got home, and then I started to cry. When she said, well, it's about time, but I was able to cry a little bit. And I don't think I ever really fully mourned her. Sometime now, it's been years, but now I miss her more. And I miss her more, and I think about her more, and I just wish I could talk to her some more. So it's a lot now that I didn't have before. Okay, when we go through a process, that fragmentation, when we talk about fragment, it means to be broken into pieces, to be detached, or to be incomplete. And this is all going to be very important to being a whole person singly, because if we're not a whole person singly, we're not going to be a whole person in a relationship. So we go through this, and this means to be broken into pieces, to be detached, or be incomplete. So during my rape, what happened? My nervous system had no idea of how to process the pain that I felt due to all the trauma. You remember we talked about sometimes when it become ongoing trauma, that when trauma happens, our nervous system will put up this defense to protect us. But when it continues to happen so much, we get stuck in the protection mode. And until we are unable to get out of the protection mode, we get to a point where we're fighting everything, we're blocking everything. So that happened to me. During my rape, my nervous system had no idea how to deal with all the pain that I felt during this trauma. So my mind started doing the things that I thought would protect me. Okay, my mind tried to take away the actual pain of the rape, or try to take away the thought of the rape and put my focus someplace else. And I do that a lot still. I'm still finding a lot of things in my life that I'm working on as I do this and as I study this. It took the pain away I was experiencing, and it stuffed it deep down inside of my psyche. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. It happened, but as long as I'm not thinking about it, I'm not seeing it right now, out of sight, out of mind, right? So let's say this helped me for a little while. But just because the pain was out of mind doesn't mean that it disappeared. Rather, that suffering was lodged deep inside of me. And the thing with that is the pent up energy will stay there until I either process it, I need to process it, and I need to integrate it. It's not gone anywhere. I need to integrate it, and I need to process it. Now, this type of stored trauma doesn't usually affect us too much until we become adults. I'll look into that some more if you want me to, but it doesn't really normally affect us. I guess because we're kids, we're going through life, but when we become adults, I guess that's that safe place. But this type of stored trauma, doesn't usually affect us until we become adults. What happens, the brain pushes the memory down into the subconscious so we can continue to live our life. That is there. But the trauma can still affect our behavior, even if it's repressed. So this happens, it's like blowing up an emotional balloon that keeps getting bigger and bigger through the years, and eventually it gets to a point where it will pop. And if we add this to the negative feelings that the trauma has caused us to feel, and the negative thoughts that we have about ourselves, we can easily hit rock bottom. We can tap out. We can have breakdowns, dark nights. And this is what leads to what happens is our nervous system is going into the overload mode, and we get stuck in this chronic survival mode. That's what I'm talking about before, how we get into this mode where we're just blocking everything because we're in this chronic survival mode. And we go through the process of fragmentation. When we do, meaning, we're broken or we're detached or incomplete. It's a self. When we get that, this fragment state is a gateway to drugs, to feeling ashamed, to self abuse, to all other abuse. It's a gateway to the failure to thrive, to a destruction in our careers. It's a gateway to dysfunctional relationship. Because it leads us to wanting more. It leads us to we want more. We want to feel whole, but we don't know how to get there. And when we're there, when we got these things in our lives, that wanting to feel whole can lead to unhealthy and unstable relationship because we start to look for other people to make us whole. We start looking for that wholeness in other people. Okay. Um, when I thought about being singly whole, I took a definition. I took part of a definition from Lawrence Freeman, but then I changed it a little bit because I kind of thought that my definition made more sense to me. Wholeness is overcoming the virus of perfection that keeps us in an imaginary world rather than in the real one. And I love it. I think that's exactly what wholeness is. It's overcoming that virus, that worm of perfection that keeps us living in this imaginary world instead of the real one. That's why when we started out talking about trauma, we started out saying that you're enough. You're whole. You're everything you need to be already. And we don't see that. We live in this imaginary world. We start doing things. Some people start just buying stuff. We do a lot of things trying to be okay in this imaginary world. In this imaginary world, instead of facing facing life the way that it really is. Antoinette, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and I always do. Corey, thank you. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Okay. And is this somebody? Okay, that's Antoinette. Okay, anyway, what happens is it keeps us, we got this warning that tell us we got to be a certain way, life got to be a certain way. And we start to live in that imaginary world instead of living in the real world. So, and when we start trying to be perfect, in the sense of somebody's way of saying perfect, know that perfection is subjective and dependent on somebody else's unique perception. They can think that somebody may think one thing is perfect, somebody else thinks that something else is perfect. Somebody may think that that you look good this way, somebody else may think you look good that way. So when we start living into this imaginary world of what perfection is, of what's right and what looks good, that's what that messes up being wholly single. Okay, the understanding and acceptance, what we need to get to this, we need to get to the understanding. Being singly whole means to understand and accept that we are at the core, at our very DNA, already whole. If we get to that understanding and really accept that we are already who we should be, then we won't do that. We won't live in this imaginary world. We will stop working so hard to become something that's just not who we are. And being able to free fall in our authentic selves when we can become real in ourselves. The mind can be full of thoughts that generate negative emotions. Your mind can tell you stuff, past memories that haunt us, faulty beliefs and patterns, things that we believe that just didn't pan out the way we thought they were, strange ideas about life. In other words, what I'm saying is the mind can be a false persona that what we've created, it can be a false persona that we've created, and it's not always the most reliable source. You cannot sit there and listen to it. Your mind will tell you some things that ain't even true. You have to be mindful of what you're paying attention to when you want to be singly whole. In order to have a healthy or productive relationship of any form, whether it be friendship, whether it be a romantic relationship, whether it be a husband and wife, in order to have a productive and a healthy relationship, we have to integrate. We got to integrate. A healthy relationship requires us to integrate or to call back those parts of ourselves that have split off over our lifetime. And it causes us to release the stored traumas in our lives. So whatever those stored traumas in our lives, we have to release those things. And we have to call back those parts of us that have split up over time. My personality, the things that who I am. We gotta in order to have that relationship, we need to call them back. Remember that whenever we get into a relationship, that a fragment relationship plus fragments is only going to equal to more fragments. Now, I got some fragments in my life. Some things in my life that's broken off. Some things in my life, I'm not who I really am. I'm trying to show somebody this. I'm trying to be the person that they want me to be. And if they have that same stuff in their life, maybe not the same fragments, but if they're living with fragments in their life, fragments in my life plus fragments in their life equals more fragments. It does not make us whole in any way. So when we get into these relationships with people and we're looking to them to make us whole, they may have fragments in their own lives. And if they don't, and sometimes they already have their own lives. So we're looking to people to come in and make us whole, but it's not going to work that way. A solid relationship is really about two whole, or at least fairly whole, people who are working on themselves. It's about two people who are whole, coming together because they love each other and they want to be in each other's company. They are not coming together because they need someone to love them at all times. They are not coming together because they need company at all times. They are not coming together because they need to be shown that they are loved at all times. They're not coming together because they need kudos from the world. That's not a whole. When we find that we need all of this stuff, there are some fragments that maybe we need to look at in our lives. To bring people into our lives to fulfill a need is even unfair to that other person. We need to be whole in ourselves. I remember I used to always have parties, and one of the reasons I had parties because as a kid, like I say, I'm still growing and still learning. As a kid, I was alone a lot. I was alone. I was around a crowd. People always seemed to like me, but I was one of those people that always felt that I was alone in a crowd. So as a kid, I was by myself. So I needed those people around me. So when I threw a party, when I lived in that house, when I threw a party, I cooked. I catered the food. I spent money. Money was no object. I went to the liquor store and I bought the most expensive wine, champagne. I bought the most expensive liquor. Whatever that was top shelf, I would ask the guy in the store, what's the top shelf stuff? And I would buy that stuff. I would ask my friend, what do people drink? And I would buy that stuff. I ended up with a whole house full of stuff. And I really don't even drink. But I did that because I needed people in my life. Now I want people in my life, but it's no longer a need. When I went on this trip, I just came back from New Orleans. I went for a week. And it was, for me, I was going to take this time away to live in the moment. That was my purpose. That was the reason why I took this trip. Because I wanted to live in the moment. That was my whole moment. I didn't feel like I had never lived in the moment. I've been learning a lot. I've been doing a lot. And I wanted to know what it was. Hey, Sister Joyce, thank you for joining. I wanted to know what it was like to live in the moment. I wanted to have kind of a mental fast, to go on this mental fast. Any other time I've done anything, when I did anything, if I had gone somewhere, I would have went live on Facebook to tell people about the trip as I did it. I would have been taking pictures. I would have been on the phone telling people what I did and where I'm going. Even when I sit down to eat, I probably would have been on the phone. That was what I did, what I would normally do, because I needed people in my life. So I decided as I learned this stuff and try and apply this to my life, because I do everything that I say on here, I apply it to my life. So when I took this trip, I went on a mental fast. I didn't get on the phone. I didn't turn it off, but I didn't answer no phone calls. I didn't go on Facebook and post on anybody's page. I didn't post on my page. I decided to go on this trip and to really pay attention and just to really be my real self. That's what I wanted to do. So my real self, when I got ready to go out to eat, I did. I met people. I talked to strangers. That's what I do. I talked to strangers. I ended up having lunch with some guy that I met that lived in Louisiana. Some other guy met him, and he saw me walking and said, I just saw you go that way, and now I see you going back this way. Are you looking for something, in particular? And I'm like, are you looking for something joking like I always do. And he said, no, he lived there. And I asked him, where was he going? He was going down to this place called Willie's Fried Chicken. And he said they had some really good chicken. I said, well, I said, can I go to lunch with you? Can I go too? So we went to lunch together, sat there and had lunch together. And my being who I am, when I'm really myself, even the young guy who brought our food, while the man, his name was Norman, went to go and he went to the bathroom. And I was at the table waiting for the food, and the young man the waiter came and brought a Coke to my table. And I said, well, what's the Coke for? Because I didn't order Coke. The other guy Norman didn't order Coke. He said, it's because I'm a nice guy. That my real self draws people. That's what it does. My real self, one day I was sitting on my way to work, and there was a homeless lady that always sat in front of Walgreens selling those newspapers or whatever she had, she was selling. And I used to always talk to her, just say hi. And one day I was on my way to work, and she said to me, tomorrow, make sure you stop by here to see me. I got something for you. That's what the homeless lady said to me. I got something for you. And the next day, she said, I brought you some suits because you work at the bank and you need to dress nice. And she brought me clothes. That's just what people do for me. I mean, when my authentic self draws out people, that's what it does. And I made sure that I wore my suit that she bought me so that she would see it, to let her know how much I appreciate her thinking about me. So things like that happen to me in who I am. So when we talk about self-wholeness, remember, self-wholeness is honoring and respecting our authentic selves just as we are. Calling back those fragment parts help us to be authentic. When we call them back. When I'm trying to live and be this way, but part of me, I'm giving up this part of me over here, or I'm trying to please you and this part of me over here, or I got this that I've given up just to make you okay, or I'm trying to live, but I'm giving up parts of myself. When I find when I'm giving it up, so I'm calling back to be whole as a person, as an individual, before we can even think about being in relationships, especially when we talk about marriage relationships and those type of relationships. And I can say this much: in my marriage relationship, we didn't talk. What we should do, we used to talk till 3:00 in the morning. Now we used to have conversations till 3:00 in the morning, just sit around and talk, but we did not communicate at all. We didn't sit down and say, this is what I'm expecting, this is what I need, and I didn't hear if he tried to tell me the same thing. Okay. So we call back those fragment parts. It helps us to be authentic. So when we talk about being authentic, we're talking about being true to our own personalities, true to our own values, to our own spirits. We want to be true to ourselves regardless of the pressure we're under to act any way different. People, because I talk, I say things, I'll just say whatever comes to my mind. And, you shouldn't do that. Yeah, I can be me. This is me. I can be me. You can be you. Being authentic is actually and exactly what you claim. So when we're talking about being authentic, if you're claiming one thing, then you're actually what you're claiming. I hear that a lot. Especially in some of our brothers and sisters in the Lord, when things are happening in our lives, and we talk about it. We get to talking about the things that happen in our lives, and then we try to say, but God. But the truth is, but is never God. But is actually those other things that's going on in our lives. God is never the but part. God is awesome, and no matter what. So, or it says things like more than one friend to say things like, well, God is good, and you proclaim that He's taking care of you. You proclaim that every need you have is met, but you're worried about this, and you keep talking about that. Your conversation will let you know where you are. All we have to do is pay attention to what we say, be mindful of what we say, and we will know exactly where we are. If we're worried about how this is going to happen, then we're not really knowing that God's going to supply it for us. We can talk about it, but if it starts to bother us, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I got to pay my bills. We never paid them in the first place. God did. He did it. He's our protector. He's our guy. It's always Him. He's always been taking care of us. And if we get scared to live our lives because of what may happen, then we're not trusting in Him. We said, cast all our cares All that stuff that bother us, all those people that come against us, all those people that say things about us, leave them there. Leave them there. Leave it right there. It's not even, don't let it be big enough to, because what it is only a distraction. So when we do this, when we are being authentic, we are actually and exactly what we claim. Actually and exactly what we claim. Well, I claim just what God claims about me. I claim that I'm the head. I'm not the tail. I claim that I'm the lender. If I claim that, then I shouldn't be nowhere trying to borrow nothing. I should know, God, you got a way. Now, if you put it in my heart to go do something, I'm not saying not to go borrow anything. I just know that that's who I am because of the word said it. So that's what it is. Our journey to rediscover. So that's going to be our journey to rediscover our authentic self and remember who we are. We want to see our wholeness. We want to accept that we are worthy just the way that we are. And some of the things we're going to forget about perfection. It's just a worm. It's not even real. We're going to look for our purpose. Why am I here? We're going to let things go. We got to let things go in order for us to rediscover our authentic self. Let that stuff go. And the reason we got it so much, have you ever heard somebody say something like, well, I don't see what she wanted him, or I don't see what he wanted her, because they're comparing them to themselves, or they think that they look better, or they think they are better, whatever it is. Let that stuff go. Forget about it. What that perfection you think you are may not be perfection to somebody else. I just told you, it's subjective to the one that's looking at it. It may not be, but people are drawn to authentic people. Now, if you want to be somebody to be attracted to you, just be authentic. Let go. Find your people. This is a whole world of people that God has created out here. Find your people. There's some that God created just to be around you. People that's going to love you just as authentic as you are. You don't have to lie like you one way. You don't have to pretend you something else. There are some people out here that's going to love the authentic person that you are. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to act a certain way. You can be yourself. And there's some people that's going to love you just the way you are. Because that's what we are. Be authentic. Enjoy it. Appreciate the journey. That's what I'm learning to do. I am learning to appreciate this journey that I'm on. The things that I'm learning to do. The things that I'm seeing in myself. The good, the bad, the ugly. I'm appreciating the good because it's good. I'm appreciating the bad because that's part of who I am. I'm appreciating the ugly because, God, you allow me to see it. And now I can change the things in my life that I can change. The things that I'm not happy with, I can go there and do something different with them. I can find out more. I can study more. There's so many things I can do. Stay true to your values, to your own morals, to your own beliefs. Stay true to them. We don't, like we talked about before, we can't control what other people say about us, but we can control what we say about ourselves. Speak those good things over your life. You are so worthy. You are beautiful. You got to know that. And I don't mean you beautiful because you wear makeup. I don't mean you beautiful because you got your hair colored this way. I don't mean you beautiful because you ain't got a facelift. No, you are beautiful because the DNA, the who you are, is totally beautiful. Your very DNA is so gorgeous. Who you are is gorgeous. Know that. Lead with intentions. Have a purpose and an aim in life. And nourish yourself. Make sure that on your way, on your journey, that we continue to just nourish who we are. Pay attention to it. Take that, I'm not saying to go on a trip like I did, but take that time, that mental break to say, okay, sometimes we get to a point where the only time we think we look nice is when we got a lot of compliments. You determine for yourself. You determine for yourself. Do I look nice? You determine for yourself. Does this work for me? Because even if a lot of people like it, they don't know what you like. It's not you. We want to be whole, singly whole. There are married people. Married, it doesn't matter if you're single or married. There are married people who are whole, single in marriage. Because if you're not whole by yourself, you're not going to be whole with somebody else. And especially if you come into a marriage and they got fragments in their lives, you're going to have a lot more fragments. It's not going to be the best relationship. Okay? It doesn't matter how you want it to. It doesn't matter how you hoped it to be. It's just that we have to face reality and be authentic in ourselves. We have to be true to ourselves. We have to realize those things. Some people, I had one lady said to me, um, when women, some of us, where we come from, our background, she felt that the thing for her to do when she got married, they had kids, so she was always at home with the kids. She was cooking, she was cleaning, saved lady, so she was in church, she was doing those things, and then later on in life, she realized that she really didn't do anything. Well, her kids got grown, so that you didn't have to do that anymore. But her husband always had his life. He had his friends. He went to the games. He did this. He went that. And so when she got to a point that she thinking that, okay, the kids are grown now, we gonna do that. He was already holding the things that he does. And it's unfair, really, to expect him to make you okay, even if he's your husband. It's unfair to try to make anybody make you okay when you're not okay by yourself. You gotta know, you gotta be whole. You're an individual. God created even twins, they're still individuals. Even conjoined twins, we're individuals. And we need to be mentally, physically a whole in ourselves before we can expect to bring anybody else into that. So we want to, in our stored trauma, we're going to allow all the deep, large sufferings to be released. Anything that's deep, that's large, that's large in us, deep in us, we want to give it space to manifest. Don't fight it. Allow it to manifest. It's for your good. It's for our own good. We want to gather the fragments in our life. When the body divided, this when the body again divide our character and traits and feelings and group them into these smaller sections. We want to release that. We want to bring back. We want to pull back the fragments in our life. We want to stop giving up parts of ourselves, and even to ourselves. We want to be authentic to ourselves first. To me first. Pull back the fragment. I don't want to stop laughing a lot. I'm a giver, and I laugh a lot, and I stopped doing that because I thought people had a problem with it. That's okay if they have a problem with it. It's okay. We don't control what other people feel. We don't control what other people do. I laugh a lot. I had a great time on vacation doing being me. I met so many people being me. I went to get in line to get some food. I wanted to go to this oyster bar, and I was in line, and outside, we had to stand outside in line. And I was by myself. There was a white girl by herself, an Oriental girl by herself, and there were people that was in groups. So when they come out, we at the door now. We're the first ones, and they saying the next group of 3, the next group of 2. So they're bypassing us. And we said to each other, the next time they call and say group of 3, let's be that group of 3. I didn't walk away because that's where I wanted to eat at. But let's be that group of 3, and we did. So we became the group of 3. We ate together. We paid our separate bill. Each person paid their bill. And so the white girl and I had started talking. The Oriental girl left, and the white girl and I ended up going to listen to some music, exchanging numbers, had a great time. I think that's who Rosie is, and that's the real me. And sometimes I go giving, and I feel like I used to give and feel like, well, you need to stop because people you act like you got more than other people. No, I don't. No, I don't. It's not in my heart. It's not in my intention. It's who I am. It's the authentic who I am. That's who I am. And it's hard to when you give up those parts of yourself, trying to please somebody or trying to not. I want to be real with me. I got a lot of me that God want to do in me, and I want Him to be able to do it in me. And in order to do it, I need to be whole. I need to know that I'm whole. I need to recognize and respect the fact that I'm whole. Honor and respect in our authentic selves as we are, just as I am. Overweight, yes. Wrinkles in my face, yes. I honor that. I respect that. I actually love that. That Rosie I didn't love as a kid, I love her. A whole person is a person who is completing themselves, not in completing other people, but completing ourselves and in who we are. A person who is sufficient, I am. Adequate, more than enough. Entire, yes, I am. Yes, we are. Undivided, yes, we are. We're full and we are in one piece. A whole single person is a person of strength. We are strong. We are people of dignity. We are people of unity. And we are people of grace. Know that. Remind yourself of that this week. I am a whole person. I am singly whole. Even if sometimes I get bored, sometimes I feel like I want company around. It doesn't matter. Sometimes I may feel lonely, but I am singly whole. And you are singly whole. And before we can get into think about relationship, whatever type of relationship we want, we need to be whole, and we need to be able to. We're going to talk about it more. Communicate that. We need to be able to talk to people. We want to know, why do we love authentic people but find it hard to be authentic ourselves? One thing I can say now, it's the world we live in. It's the world we live in. We're not focused. We're not focused. We're not reminding ourselves of who we are. We love people who are authentic, but we find it hard to be authentic ourselves. And especially when we haven't done it for so long. I think it starts even from a child. You know, we hurt, and they just tell us, oh, you're okay. No, I'm not okay. But we even raise our children that way. So we're going to talk about that some more on next week. Again, I want to say thank you for everyone. I really appreciate you for listening to these videos. I will be on, God willing, again on Saturday at 8 a.m. and we will talk some more. We will talk some more. Let me go back to our affirmation. We'll talk some more next Saturday. Any questions, any comments, anything that you want me to talk about, and Antoinette, we're still on singleness, so we're gonna continue to talk about that, because we're not done with that. We do need to continue to talk about that. We do need to address that. There's still a lot to do in singleness. Yeah. Anything else? I love people too. Amen. Okay. So our affirmations for today. Our individual, our identity and individuality, and our personalities and emotions are whole. Our identity, individuality, our personality, and our emotions are whole. They are complete. I am whole. We are whole even when we don't feel like it. It's in our DNA. It's in our very makeup. We are whole. We call back all parts of our body that were fragmented. Anything in us that was fragmented, we call it back. We are no longer fragmented. Call them back. That part that we don't want to feel, the part that we don't want to see, that part that hurt us, we call it all back. And release all stored trauma. All stored trauma in our lives, we release it. We honor ourselves by speaking our own needs. It's an honor. We are singly whole even in our relationships. Whatever relationship we're in, we are still individually, singly whole. And we take this from Sister Shirley. Today is a great day to have a great day. I really appreciate all of you for listening. I appreciate you for coming on the line today. I appreciate anyone who will be watching this on YouTube later. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will be back on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Have a great day, and thank you so much. Goodbye.